Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing the Halloweentown book tag. This was created by Peyton Reads and Brainium Books. And it's just questions. And, I picked the books that'll go with it. So I tried to get ones that they didn't mention, even though I agreed with a lot of the ones that they mentioned. And I would have picked those too, but these are just ones I picked. And if I was about to pick the same ones that they picked, I tried to find a different one. So I will leave their links down below. You should go check them out. They're good too. I love them. Awesome. Okay, let's get into the questions, shall we? It says Halloweentown. Name a fictional place you wish were real. Now this one, I think Peyton did this one. And that Crescent City or House of Earth and Blood, whichever one was the title for this one. Honestly, I just love this book. I love this world. I think a lot of people can agree with that, so that's why I picked this one. I know like bad stuff happens in here, so I'm not saying that, but like besides all of that, the world is really amazing. Like you have all these different creatures, different beings all living together, coexisting and everything. Like there's problems, yes, but like I just love it. It's really good. Totally check it out. Thick but good. Next one is Marnie. Name a book about witches. So I recently just read this and I'm reading the series. That is Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. I love this book, this series. I'm currently on the third one. There's not much to say. It is about witches, but it's also about vampires and demons. But our main character is a witch, and she, I guess, discovers this manuscript that all the creatures want and that are kind of like fighting over. And it's like basically the book of their beginnings, I guess. I don't know too much about it. Again, like I said, I'm on the third book, so maybe I'll go like more in depth about it. And I also don't want to give away too much, so just check it out if you want to know more. Next one is Sophie. Name your favorite middle grade book. Okay, for this one, I don't have a lot of middle grade, or I don't read a lot of middle grade. I think this is middle grade because like on the younger, I think I have another one, but I'm just going to say it's I Tell You I Love You, But Then I Have to Kill You. Love that title. It's by Ali Carter, and it's a series, and I read the series years ago. It's set at this academy, and they're basically being taught to be spies. It's a spy school, basically. It's called Gallagher Academy for Exceptional Young Women. A fairly typical all-girl school. Typical, that is, if every school taught advanced martial arts in PE and the latest in chemical warfare in science. And it also says the students received extra credit for breaking CIA codes in computer class. The Gallagher Academy might claim to be a school for geniuses, but it's really a school for spies. What more do I want than that? This series is so good. Like, when I read it, I loved it. I haven't read it since. It is like, the writing is a bit more on the younger aspect, so I might not be a fan of the writing now if I reread it, but I still love the storyline. I think the first one is pretty good, but I think after the first one it gets way better. It kind of like changes course and it gets like more action and everything, so I love it. The next one is Dylan. Name a book with a magical school. Now for this one, there is Vampire Academy, which I know, I don't know if they both chose it or one of them chose it, but they chose it. But I didn't want to copy them, so I chose Crave by Tracy Wolff. This one is a new one. It came out this year, and the second book just came out too this year. Crazy. I love this book. I really do. It's such a good book. I know when they were marketing it, it had like vampires, and they were saying it's like compared to Twilight because like a mortal falls in love with a vampire, but it is different. I guess I see some of it, but it's also too very different, and like the whole world is different. Like there's dragons. Like these people literally turn into dragons. How werewolves turn into werewolves, they shapeshift into dragons. Like it's pretty cool, and there's just so much more to this. Like, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but she's not Bella. That's all I'm gonna say. You'll find out why. At first she may seem because she's a human, but I'm reading the second one. I kind of feel let down with the second one, but we'll see. I still haven't finished it yet. It kind of got me into reading some, but I really love the first one. So main character Grace, her parents die in I think like a car crash or something, and she goes to live with her uncle and her cousin, but her uncle is the headmaster at a boarding school set in Alaska, so she has to go live all the way in Alaska and go to this boarding school and all. So that's where it starts. The next one is Grandma Aggie. Name a book that helps you escape in a brand new world. So for this one, I didn't know what to do. I don't read a lot of fantasy. Kind of similar to like the first one, like, you know, fictional place. I'm gonna name one that I don't really think, I mean, I guess it kind of is, but isn't. But I'm gonna go ahead and say Renegades. I mean, this world is pretty interesting because like, so I guess it's kind of like our world, but like future. I'm not too sure about that, but there's superheroes. There's like the anarchists, I guess, which are evil. But I also love this book because it talks more about what's really right, or like, you know, the black and white or the gray area. And then like sometimes like even the good guys can kind of not be in the right all the time or think they're doing good, but then sometimes they're not. I don't know, but then there's like it's like a morality question, and I really love this book so much. Like the first one, it's good, but then it gets more in depth with that morality question in the later ones, and I just really love it. So we follow Nova, and she's an anarchist, but she goes undercover in the Renegades because they don't know who she is or whatever, but she basically wants revenge, I guess, for her parents' death. I hope this is not a spoiler. It's like at the very beginning, because like, the thing is, she feels that the Renegades didn't do their job to protect her family, and they're all dead. So she's kind of bitter towards them, and then she thinks that, you know, they're not all what they seem to be, or like all that they're made out to be, you know. So these books were so good. They are like kind of big, but I actually flew through them pretty fast. The audiobook is pretty good because it switches point of views sometimes, and then we follow Adrian, who is the son of well, technically his mother was one of also two, I guess, the leaders of this renegade, but then she died. So these two guys, gay people, love to see that, they took him in as their own son, and you know, they're just like a family together. And they also have another son that they took in, and they're just so cute. But we follow Adrian too, and Nova. And I don't know if it goes into other point of views, but I know for sure those two. But I don't know, something about this, I just love it. It made me, when I was reading, especially the last one, I was just so like in my feels with this. It was so good. Totally check it out, please. It's not talked about a lot, but it should be because it's really good. Next one is Calabar. Name your favorite villain. So this one, I had to keep it the same because I couldn't think of another one. Like, this is probably the main one that everyone thinks about when you talk about villains when it comes to books, if they have read this series. If not, they totally should. But I don't know, something about this villain just, I can't, like, when I read this, I was like, her. And that is Lavonna from the Lunar Chronicles. This is actually her story, like a prequel of how I guess she kind of became it. I actually have not read this book yet. I have it and I want to read it. It's short, so I should read it. But I read the Lunar Chronicles, love it, and something about Lavonna, I don't know, she's just, why is it when it comes to like villains, it's the women that do the villains pretty good? Like, I mean, yeah, there's guy villains that like are really dark, but then when it comes to women, you kind of know some shit happened to her for her to be like this. Like I was watching Maleficent and the second one, and like that's the story of kind of like her true story of like how she became Maleficent. That story, she was wronged so much and it was so bad. Like, I felt so bad for her, but I mean, it wasn't right what she did, but she was wronged. And it just hurt me. Like, this is why you have to be careful of how you treat people, because you don't know how it's going to affect them. And it could turn around and bite you in the butt, because look at Maleficent. But it was really messed up. But yeah, that I was thinking about that. And the same thing with like Lavonna. Like, I know I hated her in the books because like she's the villain and all, but if you really look at all that she's been through, it's the same thing like with the Red Queen, like in Alice in Wonderland. It doesn't go into detail, but like I have Heartless. I haven't read that one yet also, but I will. And it's like the same thing with all of these people, like especially the women. Like, why are the women treated so badly to become like these villains, and then guys just end up being the villains? They don't have to be treated badly sometimes. They're just come out that way. I'm just like, what? But women, we get put through some shit and then we turn into a bitch. So okay, sorry for my cussing, but Ferris, Lavonna, love this villain. I don't know what else to say. Just read the series if you haven't. If you have, you know what I'm talking about. Next one is Benny. Name a book that is always there to get you out of a hard time. For this one, I've talked about it plenty. I love this series, even though it is kind of dark and about murder, but I just love it. And that is Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco. One of my favorite series because I love forensic science. I've always been into that and true crime and watching stuff like that, and I always love the science of it, and I always love that aspect. And so this follows Audrey Rose in the late 1800s, I believe, and she likes cutting up dead people. She loves the science and everything, and you know, looking into dead people and to how they died and why, and figuring that out and finding the killer, which, you know, isn't respectable for a lady like her, of her age, with her family status in this time period, which I love that commentary too, and she still does it. And I love, she's super smart, and she did also to Thomas Creswell. I love him too because, again, he lets her be who she is. He doesn't care. Like, he loves her for who she is, and he doesn't want to stop that. He doesn't want to, you know, like chain her up or whatever. Like, he wants her to be her and loves her for that. And I love that. Next question. It's Luke. Name a character with a hard exterior but is actually soft inside. So for this one, I could have chosen any book. A lot of these books I mentioned have that. Pretty much a lot of male characters are like that, and I love that. One that I chose that I guess is different than, or one I don't talk about a lot, is She's With Me by Jessica Consolo. And this one's actually from Wattpad. I read this when it was on Wattpad too. Loved it. And so she's publishing it. The second one's coming out in December, so I can't wait for that. I don't know what else to say about this. This is really good. And I'm talking about Aiden. He has a hard exterior, which for what he's gone through and what he's still going through is understandable. But he's just so soft inside, and he cares so much about his friends, about his family, and about Amelia, that I just love it. But he's also too so tough, and he has to be, but I love it. You should totally check this out. I have a lot more back on my shelf that's from like Wattpad or whatever, and I love them so much. Sometimes some of them are not like the greatest, but they're like so good, guilty read. But this one's actually really good. Like, it still has like the you know, classic like high school drama stuff that is in like most books, but other than that, like when you get more into it, there's other stuff in here that you don't see a lot in books, and that I just really love that. So check this out. The next one is Cal. Name a favorite guilty pleasure book. So for this one, I could have chosen like any one of the ones I have for from Wattpad, because I have a lot and some of them are really guilty pleasure ones. But the one I actually chose, I love this book so much, but I read it like years ago, so I kind of forgot about it. But I really love it, and it is actually kind of bad. Like, I reread it like maybe like 3 times, and like the last time I reread it, I can kind of see it is kind of like cheesy and bad, but I still love it. I actually don't have the first book with me. I don't know what happened to it. I had it, but I think I maybe lost it in the move or something when we moved here. But I'm holding up the third book because I don't have the first or second. I don't know where they went. I'm sad about that. This is, well, the first one is Alice in Zombieland. I think the second one is Through the Zombie Glass or something like that. And then this one is The Queen of Zombie Hearts. And there's a fourth one, but it follows like someone else's perspective. I think that's a Mad Zombie Party or something like that. But anyway, I love this series. It is a really guilty pleasure because the romance and stuff is kind of like cheesy and kind of insta-lovey, but like not too insta-lovey at the same time. Because they do kind of like hate each other at first, but then do fall in love with each other. But I don't know how to explain it. Okay, so in this world, there's zombies. So the main character, Alice, or they call her Allie for short, in the very beginning, her family dies. Her parents and her little sister, they die. They were going to her little sister's recital, and like her dad is very paranoid, and so they just thought like he was weird. He's talking about these monsters coming out at night, and he doesn't like them going out at night, staying out at night. They have to be home, and so the recital, they said no because it was going to run late into the night. But they begged, Allie begged her parents because it was her birthday. They went to the recital and they were coming home, but Allie convinced them to take the shortcut because it would take them even longer going the regular way, and since they were really wanting to hurry to get home. But the shortcut was through a graveyard, but they did it anyway just to get home faster. But it was a mistake because when they were passing the graveyard, the zombies came out. Like they crashed a car, I think, and it actually ended up killing the dad on impact. Or no, I think it was a mom and sister on impact, but the dad was still kind of alive. And then the zombies got the dad and ate his soul. Yeah. So basically in this world, these zombies are not typical zombies. They're just like spirit zombies. So I love that aspect because it's not like actual zombies. They're spirit zombies. And then you're also fighting this corporation. Kind of reminds me of like Umbrella Corp from, you know, Resident Evil. But it's not. It's Anima Industries, and they basically want to get these zombies, capture them, and try to like turn them into like weapons for them to use and everything. But like the way they're going about it, you know, is very questionable. And yeah, so these zombies are like spirit zombies, so the only way you can fight them is in spirit form. And there's these zombie hunters, I guess, and only certain people can see like these zombies, and Allie is one of them. She doesn't know this at first until that night that her family dies, when she sees them. And then she goes to live with her grandmother, and when she goes to the high school, she meets Cole and his group and find out that they are also like her, or she's like them. And then things just go from there. She learns more about everything and honestly, it's really good. Like, I know some stuff can be cheesy, but the actual plot and everything isn't, and it's really good. Like, it's a different twist on zombies, and there's way more stuff to it, and there's stuff to Allie, like her background and everything, that plays into the story, and it's just so good. I honestly loved it. Like, it may not be for everyone, and that's okay, but I loved it, and I think a lot of you should check it out. Plus, I mean, they look kind of thick, but they actually fly really fast because, like, they're, it's, like, pretty big space, but I love it. Y'all should just check it out. Next up, Gort. Name a book you love that you forgot to talk about. I actually had another one in mind, but I switched it to another poem because I can't think of another one. That is The Chemist by Stephanie Meyer, who is the author of Twilight. But this book is actually, I guess, her first adult book, and it's totally underrated. I don't think I've ever heard anyone talk about this that I can think of. I picked this up just on a whim at half price books, so this one's a little, like, my love copy. It's kind of messed up, but I have another one, a hardback one that I got pretty cheap too, but it's in really good condition. But I love this one. It really is underrated. Like, so I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain, but the main character used to work for the government, and she was like the chemist, but it's like, how do you explain it? Where when they get suspects come in and they try to interrogate them, instead of like interrogating them by asking questions, they use her to inflict kind of like torture, but with chemistry. So it's not like them like actually torturing the person, but it's kind of like, you know, with chemistry, or just like them making them think that they're being tortured or having this pain, but it's not really happening to them. I don't know, it's really complicated, but it's actually really interesting. And so she did that with her mentor, and then they scrap it. They stop that and they want to get rid of it, but they also don't want any loose ends, so they go after them. They actually get her mentor and kill him, and now they're after her, but she's on the run. She's been on the run forever. And then it says when her former handler reached out to her, like, for like a way out, saying, you have like, we'll give you this one last job and then you're free, like we won't come after you or anything, kind of like an exchange for freedom. She's kind of skeptical at first, of course, like, come on now, they've been trying to kill her. But it's just so cool seeing how she survives, because like she uses her brains, not bronze. It's like that kind of way. So she's really smart, but she uses her brains. I mean, she doesn't have like a lot of strength, so she does like sometimes get beaten up and everything, but like she uses her brains a lot, and it's really cool and interesting how she does this and everything. And because like she's not used to this, like she's never been on the run before, this is her first time, but she's running for her life. But I just love how she does it, because she uses her brains. And then so I guess she takes the last job in order for freedom, and things just go from there. I don't want to say too much. It's actually pretty fast paced, even though it is like over 500 pages, but it's really good. And there's also kind of a romance in there, but it's a kind of like a slow romance, but I love it because like she's not like your typical person. Like she doesn't even know how she's like, you know, her feelings. Like she's totally different than like any other person I've seen in books, but I don't even know how to really explain this. You just need to read it. It is so good. It's compared to like a Bourne movie, which is really cool. But yeah, like it's just so good. I love it. Read it. Next one. Ethan, name a character you'd want to go on a romantic broom ride with. I have so many options for this one, but I had to. Bloodlines, Michelle Mead. I hope you know who I'm talking about. If you don't, it's Adrian. Totally Adrian. Like, come on now. Who doesn't love Adrian? Like, I love this boy Adrian. Like, I thought he was good in like Vampire Academy, but no. He's even better in this book. I think I kind of like Bloodlines a little bit better than Vampire Academy. Not gonna lie. But Adrian, he's so complex, but also like so simple. Like, I don't know. He's just awesome. And I love the dynamic with him and Sydney. And I love this book, this series. As you see, I tabbed and everything, but and then like I think it was this last line that really got me. So he calls Sydney Sage, because I think that's what I mean. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, it's my God, Sage, your eyes. How have I never noticed them? The uncomfortable feeling was spreading over me. What about them? The color, he breathed. When you stand in the light, they're amazing, like molten gold. I could paint those. He reached towards me, but then pulled back. They're beautiful. You're beautiful. Something in the way he was looking at me froze me up and made my stomach do flip-flops. Though I couldn't quite articulate why, I only knew that he looked as though he was seeing me for the very first time, and it scared me. And that's just in the first book, and then it just goes off from there. I love it. Like, he plays off as like the sarcastic, like doesn't give a shit person, but deep down there's way more to him. But people always underestimate him and always think that like, oh, that's just Adrian, or like, you know, stuff like that, or just ignore him, it's just Adrian. But Sydney sees through that and sees his true self, and I just love it. And I love Adrian, and I feel so bad for him, but I just so I would love to go on a romantic broom ride with Adrian, if you want to. I'm just kidding. But I love Adrian. You should totally check this series out. But I do recommend reading Vampire Academy before this one, because they're both introduced into that series and you can just kind of see all that. I know this is like a spin-off, but I just think it's best if you want to. If not, it's your choice. Okay, last one. Natalie, name a character who is proud of who they are. Now for this one, I had trouble choosing, but I chose a book for it. And I originally was going to put this one for a book that you love that you forgot to talk about, because I love this book. I love this series. It's still like an ongoing series too. But I started thinking about it, and this one actually fits perfectly for this prompt. So the book I'm talking about is Love Me to Death by Alison Brennan, Lucy Kincaid series. So it's actually really dark. There's plenty trigger warnings, so I'll get to that. But her story is so sad, but she overcomes it, and you know, with some help, but she does it too. She overcomes it, she gets to where she wants, and she's proud of it. Like, she uses that to her advantage, I guess, because of what she went through, what it did to her, how it affected her and everything. I guess it kind of helps her now, and so she's like not proud of what happened, because what happened was really terrible, and So trigger warnings for kidnapping, rape, you know, killings, in other books too, and I'm trying to think what else. There's a lot. So I'm just gonna kind of give you her backstory, but not all of it. Basically, she was talking to this guy online around like the time, like when she was 18 or so, when she just graduated high school, whatever. So she was gonna go meet up with him, but he ended up being not who he said he was, and ended up kidnapping her. And I don't even want to talk about this, it's so dark. He kidnapped her and raped her, but also too streamed it. It's really bad, and that's just like the gist of it. It goes more in depth in it, and there's like more to it. And like a lot of her family is in, like, you know, I guess cops or FBI agents or stuff like that, or profilers or whatever. So they really took it, or like military, so they really took it serious when their baby sister, this happened to her, and they were trying to find her. They did, thankfully, but not before damage was done. So she was also taken to the hospital, and because of all, I guess, that they did or whatever, it damaged her. I honestly can't even think about this because it's so sad. She basically can't have kids because it damaged her so bad down there that they had to, like, you know, sew it up, and she just can't have kids. It's really sad. That also is really sad. I can't even think about that. Like, I know people have trouble with kids too, like, naturally, but the fact that she could have had a chance to have kids, but then this happened to her and it damaged her down there enough that she can't have kids, like, that is what is really sad. And she wanted kids, but so trigger warning. But I'm not saying I love this because of the dark stuff. There is dark stuff in here, but I love it because of the different dynamics, the family dynamics. The romance in here is so good, and I just love the main character because of what she goes through, but she is so strong and tough and doesn't give up. She wants to become an FBI agent, and she's like getting there and everything, but she's so smart too, and she's kind of like a profiler in a way. I love this series. It's so good. It gets like really, and also the other reason why I really like this is, I don't know when it does it, probably like near the beginning, because there's like 15, 16 books. I could be wrong, but there's a lot. But around like probably like the 5th or 6th book, I think, don't quote me on there, it actually is set somewhere else, and it's actually set where I live. So I love that aspect. It's so they moved to San Antonio, and it gets set in San Antonio, and I guess I just revealed, but that's where I live. I live in San Antonio, and I love it here. It's my home, born and raised here. So I love San Antonio. If you get a chance, check it out. River Walk, so good. I just probably after COVID because downtown's kind of closed. But anyway, Texas, love it. Go Spurs, go. But yeah, so it is set in San Antonio. Not like halfway through, but probably like the 5th or 6th book. I could be wrong. But yeah, so I love that it is set there, and I can like when they're talking about different places or like everything, like I'm just like I know where that's at. Like she did her research. But it's also really good because we're so close to the border. Well, not so close, but like a few hours away from the border. In Mexico, a lot of the books later on is like dealing with these cartels from Mexico using like either these kids to smuggle like these drugs in, or then there's like it was like a black market baby ring or something like that, where they're selling babies on like the black market and having these like women kind of like kidnapped and held hostage just to be like the ones to give birth to these babies that they would end up selling on the black market, which is also really dark and everything. But a lot of it was like, and there's more to it too that happened like in Mexico or like into the border in here in Texas, especially South Texas, and I love it. So, and yeah, San Antonio, we're not like right on the border, like Laredo or whatever, but we're actually pretty close to it. You can definitely like just drive to the border. This takes place where I live, and so it's really good. That is all the questions and all the books and everything for this tag. I love Halloweentown. I grew up with it. I love all 4. Like, it's so good. So if you want to do this book tag, I tag you all to do it. And I mean, I just love all these books. These questions are really good. So good job to the creators who did them. You should totally go check them out because I love them. They're so good, so awesome. But that's it for me. See you later. Bye.